Josh Jacobs has officially been charged. We'll tell you what that means for your fantasy team in your fantasy drafts next.
Dominate your draft and win your league. This is Locked On Fantasy Football with Fabs and Marcus. Fabs brings the expertise, Marcus brings the fire. Together, they'll lead you to the championship. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is the Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we are discussing some league settings that you need to implement in all of your fantasy football leagues. We're actually going to tell you who's going to be in our Locked On Fantasy Football Listener League. It's going to be really fun. We'll do that at the very end of the show. But Fabs, we have to talk about the big news that broke on Thursday, and that is Josh Jacobs officially being charged with misdemeanor battery and criminal damage to property. According to Tom Pelissero of The Ringer, the NFL has been monitoring all the developments in the matter. There is also reportedly a video from the police department from outside of the garage, I believe, that shows some kind of assault. I am not a lawyer. I'm not a defense attorney. I've never pretended to be one. But what does this mean for Josh Jacobs and his status in the NFL?
Just like you, I'm not going to come out here and say I know exactly what's going to happen because I've made predictions on this kind of thing in the past. I mean, even dating back to Ray Rice and have been wrong. So I have no idea what the NFL is going to do. No clue. I know Adam Schefter in an interview recently had come on and talked about comparing this to like Von Miller's situation a few years ago, where there was an investigation that was ongoing. It went into the regular season. Miller played. And then when the investigation had concluded, the NFL suspended him for 4 games. There is a 6-game minimum suspension for, domestic abuse. I don't know what this is going to end up being. Again, it's not a felony. It's a misdemeanor. I would just say this. Why draft Josh Jacobs? He, to me, is a declining player with a whole mess of issues off the field. There's just too much risk. Now, there will come a point in a draft if he falls to the point where you can use him as a flex and you can make sure you get Marshawn Lloyd. Okay, I get it. But if we didn't have these off-field things going on, Jacobs is a locked and loaded RB2 and probably a high-end to mid RB2. I don't want him there now. If I can get him as a flex and get that handcuff with Lloyd, okay. But that also is going to alter your draft strategy because you're going to take Jacobs, but then you have to take Lloyd. And you're probably going to have to take Lloyd a round or 2 before you might have otherwise done, because if you don't get him, you could be in trouble. And, we've even heard the Packers come out, right? Their GM, Brian Gutekunst, came out and said that they kind of acknowledge that they're preparing for the possibility that, Jacobs might be suspended. So, I mean, we don't know what the situation is going to end up being right now. If you're risk adverse, he should be off your draft board. If you feel like you can buy into the dip and get Marshawn Lloyd, I don't think it's the worst move in the world, but I would go into drafts knowing that if I do draft Jacobs, there's very likely going to be some sort of discipline from the NFL, from the team, whatever the case may be. And you're going to have to bake that into his value.
A couple things really quickly. First of all, he just started practicing again. He missed like 2.5 weeks with a groin injury, which, okay, it's not the biggest deal to miss practice, but it's just one more thing you have to worry about. Here's the concern that I have. I wonder if the Packers might just wash their hands of the situation. And I know that's not maybe the most prudent thing to do if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, and the Packers obviously are. They're in a Super Bowl window, but maybe they feel like it's not worth it. We don't want to be having this suspension hanging over us all season long and wondering about it and worrying about it. We don't want to get the backlash from the fans. We've seen this happen before where teams cut players who are really talented for situations like this. I'm not predicting that, but I also would not be shocked if we hear in the next 2 weeks the Packers ultimately have decided to move on, because he's a good player, but he's not somebody that the Packers can't replace.
But I mean, how many times have we seen it in sports? Like a bad dude off the field, teams don't care. I mean, look at Terry and Arnold. This guy's like he's like a mid defensive back, and he He's got all these felony charges against him, including like kidnapping and pistol whipping somebody. And the Seahawks signed him as if they had to have him. Like,
very fair point. I can't argue against it.
I don't know. Would I be shocked if the Packers cut him like outright? I kind of probably would be. And I'm not saying this is right. Sports is no moral like high ground. This is not where you want to learn right and wrong. This has been going on for years, man. Bad dudes have kept jobs in sports because of their talent. So, I mean, I don't know if I would go that far, but
I wouldn't be surprised. That's all. I want to go to Marshawn Lloyd really quickly because we've seen his ADP steadily rise over the last month. And part of it is that he's looked good in the preseason. Another part is obviously the Josh Jacobs suspension that has just been lingering for a while. Let's say you didn't draft Josh Jacobs, because more than likely you're not. There's 12 teams in your league. You're likely going to be one of the 11 that doesn't. Are you willing to reach above consensus and go out and get Marshawn Lloyd with the idea that, number one, maybe he's the starter when and if Josh Jacobs is suspended, or number two, maybe Jacobs is just going to break down. He's a 28-year-old running back who has had a ton of touches on his body over the last 4 years, and we've seen him, I think, decline as a player. Where do you take Marshawn Lloyd?
Coincidentally, this is the exact scenario I was in a draft last night. I did not get Josh Jacobs. He went in the 4th round, and it wasn't really much of a change.
Actually, that's above
a couple of spots, right? So, and a former NFL running back actually did take him in this draft. So I did take Marshawn Lloyd. I took him in the 12th round. I don't know if I'm going to take him like significantly higher unless Jacobs is definitely suspended, and we know this, which we don't know right now.
Can I go through some running backs real quick with you, just to kind of feel out where you have them? Rachaad White, RB40.
I think Rachaad White's going to be a good PPR option. So, but I did draft Lloyd ahead of him last night.
Okay. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who is dealing with an undisclosed injury right now.
I'd rather have Bill.
Okay. Jordan Mason.
I'd rather have Jordan Mason.
Chuba Hubbard.
I'd rather have Hubbard.
Okay. So you have Marshawn Lloyd roughly like as RB40. Kyle
ballpark. I mean, listen,
Marcus, by the way.
What has this guy done in the NFL? Like, he's done nothing. He's been hurt too. So, I mean, this guy was not a highly touted prospect coming out of school, and he's done nothing in the NFL. Like, what does he have right now? Opportunity. Like, that's it. He hasn't proven that if he were any good in terms of being like a really high end or a dynamic type of back in the NFL, the Packers would have already started mixing him into their offense, even behind Jacobs, but he's been hurt. So like, I'm not getting crazy over it. If I'm a 0 RB drafter or a hero RB drafter, like, is Lloyd a good target? Sure. But I mean, listen, you're not going to get Josh Jacobs 2.0 out of this thing.
Probably not.
I think he's got to move up, but don't get bananas about it because we still don't even know. Jacobs might not be suspended at all. We have no clue.
My guess is that he is at some point. It just might not be week one. The player that I think actually is going to see the biggest rise in their ADP is Jordan Love, who is currently being drafted as QB19 right now. I'm not super optimistic about the Packers run game. I don't love their offensive line really as a run blocking unit. And I think the defense could really struggle. I don't know if you heard the Micah Parsons interview that he had from a couple of days ago, but like he was saying he might not come back until like week 8 or week 9 until he's like really fully healthy. And if Micah's going to miss the first 2.5 months of the fantasy football season, I just think you're going to see Jordan Love throw the crap out of the football. And to me, he is a great value right now as QB19.
It's certainly possible. I think Jordan Love in fantasy has been somewhat overrated. And now you're starting to see that people are not drafting him as high as they had.
Understand.
Previously.
He shouldn't be a top 12 quarterback, but I don't know if he should be QB19 either.
No, I 100% agree with you. Is he a top 20 quarterback in fantasy? Absolutely. Is he a guy you're going to start every week? Probably not. But does this potential absence of Jacobs increase his value in terms of, well, they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more? Yeah. And I mean, I think you're right too. I mean, the Packers defense, that's their best player who's going to be gone for maybe half the season. So the Packers could be ended up playing in some shootouts, which could benefit, Jordan Love in one way or another.
and Matthew Golden and Christian Watson,
Sure.
just to get everybody, Tucker Kraft, all these guys in the passing game. If Josh Jacobs does miss time, I think they're all just going to go to the moon, because you're right. I don't think we should trust Marshawn Lloyd to be like an every down RB1. I think he can be a viable RB2 flex option for us, but I just think Matt LaFleur is going to lean into the passing game, and he should. That's the best path forward here for the Packers.
I mean, who's to say that if Jacobs is out, they don't use Lloyd as their starter, but Chris Brooks mixes in too?
Sure.
Like,
I can see that as well.
we're just guessing. So again, like I hate to be the guy who throws cold water on everything. Just chill. Like, move Lloyd up, yes, but don't go crazy.
All right, let's talk about some league settings that you need to have in every single one of your fantasy football leagues this year, including how you determine who makes the playoffs. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Home Chef. Life gets busy, and figuring out what's for dinner every night can quickly become another thing on the to-do list. Home Chef takes the stress out of mealtime by delivering fresh ingredients and easy-to-follow recipes right to your door. Whether you're looking for something healthier, trying to save money on takeout, or simply spending less time on grocery shopping and meal planning, Home Chef makes cooking at home simple, convenient, and enjoyable, and people really love it. Home Chef is rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. I know at my house, football season is always so crazy for us, but Home Chef has been unbelievably clutch for me and my 3 kids. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off and free shipping on your first box, plus free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/LockedOnNFL. That's homechef.com/LockedOnNFL for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. That's homechef.com/LockedOnNFL. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. There are certain flavors that instantly feel like summer. And for a lot of people, including me, those classic red, white, and blue freezer pops are right at the top of the list. My mom used to have them just loaded up in our garage fridge, and we would just eat them all day long. That sweet cherry lime, blue raspberry flavor. It's one of those nostalgic summer flavors that everybody recognizes. And now 5 Hour Energy is bringing that flavor combination into the new Firework Freeze 5 Hour Energy Shot, blending sweet cherry, zesty lime, and electric blue raspberry into one refreshing shot, inspired by those iconic summer freezer pops. Ignite your taste buds with the flavor of summer. Get a Firework Freeze 5 Hour Energy Shot today. And for more information, visit 5hourenergy.com. Welcome back to the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Fabs, I know you had a fantasy draft last night. I know a lot of our listeners have drafts this weekend or next weekend. We are officially in draft season. We talk a lot about players and values and all that kind of stuff, but what are some important league rules and settings that your leagues need to have before you start?
#1, if you're the commissioner, you have to have some sort of, let's just see, like a commissioner's manifesto, right? You need to have a constitution where all the rules are stated. So anybody who comes back in the middle of the season or the end of the season that complains about something, well, here, it's right here.
And there are some good ones online. You can find them. Just type in, whatever you need to type in.
AI. I mean, you could easily put something together. The thing that I want to talk about, though, is who make the playoffs. And I got into a really heated text message battle last night with a certain person who everyone listening to this show knows, and I'm not going to say the name, but I have become very sort of like steadfast in my belief that record is important in fantasy, but it's not more important than points. And if you look at some of the high stakes leagues, and I talked to my buddy Greg Ambrosius about this last night. Greg is, he's an icon in the fantasy football space, in the high stakes space, NFFC. And he even suggested that record doesn't matter in fantasy football. It's all about points. Now, these are people who are putting sometimes tens of thousands of dollars up to play in fantasy leagues. The bottom line here is that I know head-to-head is fun. I love head-to-head. Like, I used to play roto baseball. It was boring. I used to play roto basketball. It was boring because I'm not playing against anybody. But you can't base everything on record because there's too much luck that's involved in fantasy football. And so my suggestion to you, and I'll give you two. And the first one is the way that I'm running my leagues. In any league that I am in, I'm running it this way. The number one team is the best record. So record still matters. The second team, number 2 seed, most points. That's not the first team in the standings. And you just alternate record points down to 6. And so that not only gives you chances to make the playoffs as a team who might not have a great record, but has scored a ton of points and has had a ton of points scored against them. We've all been there. But also, there's more opportunities for these teams that might not have this like outstanding record after, 10 or 11 weeks. You're still in it because you scored a lot of points. And you can't play defense in fantasy football. And you also can't compare real sports to fantasy sports. They're totally different. Like, fantasy football has many flaws, many. If you're in a 1 quarterback league, your league is flawed. Quarterback is the most important position in sports. And I can get really good players in the 10th or 11th round. No, that's a flaw. And fantasy football is also flawed in how people determine their playoffs. The top 6 teams based on standings, that should not be the way you do it. Fantasy football is not real football. It's not real sports. So if you can eliminate luck somewhat, I think you should 100% do it. I don't know if you're on board with this, Marcus, but I do not want to be in leagues where points are not a very important part of who gets into the playoffs and who doesn't.
I have mixed feelings on this. So in a couple of the leagues that I play in, when you have, let's say it's 12-team league, 6 teams make the playoffs. We've done it where the first 4 are based on record and the final 2 are based on points.
You can do that too.
I've just noticed that generally gets the 6 best teams into the playoffs. I understand there's a lot of luck when it comes to win-loss records, but it's still, to me, important to just try to win your matchup every single week. And maybe once in a while you have one of these low-scoring matchups that you win. Maybe you'll have a really high-scoring matchup and you lose. Okay, it happens. But I think if you could at least have 2 spots that are dedicated to the teams that have the highest points that are not the top 4 in terms of record, it does even itself out a little bit. I did want to ask you, I've seen some leagues, 12-team leagues, go to a 4-team playoff instead of a 6-team playoff. What do you think about that?
If you are in a high stakes league, I mean, Greg actually talked about this yesterday. He said 4 teams should make the playoffs. 6 is too many. Now,
it is a lot when you have half your teams making the playoffs.
I get it, but you don't want to take all the fun out of fantasy football. So that's why and you can also do it this way too. If you want to go with 6 teams making the playoffs, and once again, I would alternate. So 3 teams get on record, 3 teams get in based on points. That's what I think that's the sweet spot. But you can also hold your playoffs as an all play scenario, which means that, say Marcus and I are playing each other in a matchup, and I'll just use 2 friends, Lindsey Rhodes and Jen Piacenti are playing in the other matchups for the last 4 teams. And Marcus beats me, Lindsey beats Jen. But Lindsey had fewer points than I did, and Marcus had the most points that week. Marcus and I play again for the championship because it's all play. So it's all about points. And I've been in those leagues too. And
do you like that better though?
I don't mind those leagues either.
I still like in the playoffs just playing one opponent because it just, to me, I love rivalries in fantasy football. And this is what makes one of my leagues that we've been doing for 20 years so much fun, is because you can recall all of these wonky playoff games that are decided on the last play of a Monday Night Football game. There's part of me that just wants to keep that tradition. I understand that it's more fair to do it your way. I think
no, that's not my way. I don't run my leagues like that.
Sorry.
I just said I've played in leagues like that.
The way that you were describing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I think that the best way to go is, again, alternate record points for the 6 seeds. And then I think you have the 6 best teams in the playoffs. Because let's say that you got a 13-week regular season, okay? Say your team is 6-7, and you've scored the 3rd most points in the league, and you've had the most points scored against you. I've been there. Is my team not better than a team that went 7-6 and scored 400 fewer points than me, but had 300 fewer points scored against that team? Yeah, because they got lucky. Their team's not better than my team. I outscored them by 300 points. Like, of course my team is better. And so that's what I've said this before, right? If we can eliminate some level of luck, we should do it. You remember the San Francisco Giants team? I don't remember which team it was. This was back when the Braves played in the NL West. And they won 103 games. The Braves won 104. They beat them in the last game of the regular season. Both teams played. The Giants lost. The Braves won. The Braves won 104 games. The Giants won 103. No other team that year in baseball won more than 100 games. Giants didn't make the playoffs. They should have.
But that happens.
They were one of the best teams. They were the second best team in baseball that year. But because of bad luck and being in the division they were in, they didn't make it. Obviously, baseball's changed that right now. But if you can eliminate luck from fantasy football, and you can't do it all, like you can't do it completely. And it's going to happen, right? Like Marcus and I are going to play in a matchup, and some dude that Marcus starts on a whim is going to score 3 touchdowns, and I'm going to lose that week. But it's 1 week. I'm talking about the compilation of the entire season, your entire resume for the season in terms of how many points you scored. That's where you can eliminate some of the luck involved in fantasy football. And if you can, you should.
Again, I think points need to at least have 2 spots in the playoffs. And I think if you can convince your league mates to do that, I do think at the end of the year, you're going to have the 6 best teams in the playoffs. And that's really what you really want. You want to have the best teams rewarded with a playoff spot. And
also too, Marcus, we have this conversation. I've been in heated debates and battles on text or on the phone with people about this. At the end of the year, the teams that have the best record are more likely to still have a lot of points, and they're still going to get in.
Yeah,
but there's going to be some scenarios where like a team is 7-6 and has scored a lot fewer points than the team behind them at 6-7, and that team shouldn't be in the playoffs, because it's all about points, because that's how you determine how good a team is by how many points they score, not exactly what their record is. As Greg had said, and a lot of people who are in high stakes leagues or dug in fantasy football would say, record's not as important as points scored.
All right, let's dive into the Locked On Fantasy Football Listener League, and we'll reveal the 10 players that will be competing against us in a fantasy league. We will do that next.
Matt Derry here from the Locked On Lions podcast. You know, life insurance is one of those things you don't really think about until you have a reason to. For me, it really hit home when my father passed away over 20 years ago. You start thinking less about yourself and more about the people who depend on you and making sure they're taken care of no matter what. That's why I like Ethos. They make getting life insurance simple. It's 100% online, no doctor visits, no needles, none of that. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in just a few minutes, and even get same-day coverage. And honestly, that's huge because life gets busy. You can get up to $3 million in coverage, and some plans are as low as just $30 a month. It's just one of those things that gives you peace of mind knowing your family is protected. Take 10 minutes to get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Applications may vary. Rates may vary.
Welcome back to the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. All right, Fabs, it's time to reveal the 10 Locked On Fantasy Football listeners who will be competing against us in a fantasy football league this year. Who are our winners?
Where's the drum roll, man?
I could put one in later. Go ahead.
Drum roll, please. All right. First off, thank you to everybody who did submit a 5-star review or a comment or subscribe to the podcast. We all
hold
love
on.
you.
I found the drum roll.
Yes.
There you go.
Love it. All right. So let's start off of Facebook. Dave Murphy, Ryan McCullough, Jim Richardson, Dusty Hirsch, and Mike Pitcher are in. Now from X, and I don't have their full names. Can't guard Gallup. Got to be a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, of course.
And York Debbie, who is a huge fan of the show. Kyle Kramer 300. Don Kurjan, who's also a huge fan of the show. And DMark 1729. So here's what's going to happen. Either Marcus or myself is going to reach out to you on the platform that you submitted your reviews, and we will get your information. and I will be putting together a league on Sleeper, and you will be getting an invitation. We will then decide when we're going to have the draft. It will probably end up being at some point during the first week of the regular season. So the first game is what, the 7th?
Is it going to be a slow draft or a live draft?
No, it's going to be a live draft.
Okay.
Will be a live draft. We are going to use record points. I would suggest that we go full point PPR. We do go tight end premium, and we go super flex. So we will have.
Way too easy on me. This is great.
I will put that. You love super flex. I love super flex. We will put all of this into the Sleeper platform in the next week or so. So be on the lookout for a message from either myself or Marcus, and we will hook you guys up. We are thrilled to have you in. We can't wait to get into it this year with you. And the winner of the league, not only, I mean, we can have the winner of the league come on the podcast and just
I was just about to suggest that the winner of the league
great, just trap all over Fabs and Marcus.
Well, I was gonna say,
like, you guys really suck.
It's gonna be really weird just to have me in the podcast again as a winner, right? Like it's
shots fired by Mosher, but also you will win a championship belt from Trophy Smack. So this is gonna be a lot of fun. And if you didn't get in, we love you. We hope you're going to still follow along because we had a lot of submissions, but those are the 10 teams, including myself, Marcus making it 12, and I cannot wait. That's probably going to end up being the final draft that I have out of 2026.
It'll be the second to last draft that I have. I have one survivor draft that is always the day before
there you go.
The first game, which is always a lot of fun, but this is going to be a ton of fun to follow. We'll talk about the draft a little bit. Again, congratulations to all 10 of our winners. And I hope you like losing to us in fantasy football. It's going to be a lot of fun to beat you guys.
I will say this, Marcus.
Marty's talking smack.
Number one, Marcus is talking crap, which I love. Some of the folks that are in this league, I've played against before, and they are good. So this is not going to be like your mom and pop home league. This is going to be competitive. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll see how competitive they are. I just want to get the smack.
I love it. Marsha's talking all kinds of smack. It's
going to be good. It's going to be so much fun.
I love it.
All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen of the day. Now on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 YouTube channel on the NFL. Next week, we're going to get you ready for your fantasy football drafts because I'm sure a lot of you are going to have them over Labor Day weekend. We're going to talk about all the cuts going down around the NFL, all of the latest trades, all of the latest fantasy football news. So make sure you're subscribing, downloading the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday.